or what is this going to look like? And I think for myself personally, it's been more so that I've really been pulling myself into the present moment. Because with this much disruption and this much shifting and change, as everybody is really feeling right now, it's really important that we pull our energy and center ourselves as to what's in front of me right now, because we all want that sense of control, as to what we can control. And I'm not meaning control and I want to, control you or whatever else it may be. But how can I bring some of that certainty back in a time that's so uncertain right now, or at least feels so uncertain? So even for myself to do my best job to serve clients, it's, am I meeting my needs? Am I taking care of myself emotionally? Am I feeling balanced? Am I, really, centering myself so I can be present to be able to get information and messages as they unfold? So for myself, it's been more so about how do I pull into that moment? And a lot of the clients that have come to me also have been, what can I do right now? I think it's been interesting to see how even a lot of the individuals that come to me, everybody has been kind of focused on, we don't know what this is going to look like, and then there's a certain level of, also a level of trust that right now I need relief. I need to be able to focus on what can I do for myself, or I'm really feeling, one of the biggest things that I've heard recently is something called ambiguous loss, where everybody's like, it's almost like you're kind of walking around in a daze as to what do I even do? Because even normal socializing or normal connection, or I can't just go to a restaurant and have a great meal that I loved going to. That place may now be closed, unfortunately. So with it, a lot of individuals that are sharing in this collective ambiguous loss of the normal of what we had before is no longer normal. And we don't know what the normal is going to look like after this. I think we all, know that things will be, shifted and changed. Um, so when it comes to how long is this going to last, if I really put my feelers out there, it's going to be, and I definitely felt when this started, we were going to have waves. And as I've watched the news, it's been interesting to see how we have had these different waves going on. And it's going to continue to fluctuate. To me, I've never had the impression that it's going to be 6 months, we're good to go, and, we're ready to move on past it. There's going to be a lot of ripple effect as to how this especially impacts everything economically. We're seeing a lot of that going on. How it impacts a lot of the different industries and corporations and everything along those lines. And even from a logical standpoint, we all know that. So I think that's one of the things that has also been interesting to see, is there have been a lot of individuals, at least that I've spoken with, and clients that we've all been able to kind of take a look at that approach and know that things have shifted and changed. And then it's more so personally, how can I take care of myself, which is really the best place that I like a client or, an individual that I work with to be at in the present moment is what can I do now? And am I really listening to what my needs are? Am I listening to what my emotions are telling me to help me navigate through that world?
Well, I think that's excellent counsel. I like to say, I like to use the example of when you fly in an airplane, okay? The flight attendant does the whole thing with, in case we have an unexpected change in cabin pressure, the mask falls down, and what you do is you put your mask on and take care of yourself first. Then you take care of the small child who sits next to you. Because if you're not caring for yourself, you're not going to do anybody else any good. And it's kind of what I think you're saying. You need to look and make sure what you need to do for you, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Right. And you're 100%. And I really like that analogy because, again, and that to me is where the trust and faith element comes in. And I'm not exactly speaking of organized religion faith. Do I have the faith in myself to know that I can navigate through
faith
this?
in yourself, and maybe faith in humanity as well.
Exactly. And that's where, again, we're all doing the best that we can. We have the ability to recognize how we're pooling together. There's also been just all kinds of shifting this year. This has not been a normal year whatsoever. When we even from a numerology standpoint take a look at the year 2020, that's a master number 22. And, even as the year 2020 was approaching, everybody's like, this is going to be a really interesting year because 2020, I mean, it's a whole new decade coming in here. Nobody, I don't think I have any peers in the psychic world that were like, hey, heads up, guys, there's going to be a pandemic, just to let you know. you know, and with it, I think there's even, for me, typically, even around a winter solstice is when I'll start to feel some of the energy as to what's going to be coming in this year. I knew there's going to be major shifting and changing, and that's one of the reasons why even, the latter half of last year, I was really feeling a massive, strong pull. You've got to move. You've got to go to that area of the country, and I didn't even know why. And with it, I was just kind of like, okay, it's been a long time since I've completely moved away from my family, my friends, everything that I've known. And even I had some apprehensions, but when the energy and intuitively everything was flowing in that way, I had to trust it. And then it's been interesting because even, individuals who have reached out, they're like, you kept saying the energy kept flowing into that direction. And then look at what happened. You never thought you'd be going into a pandemic, huh? And I was like, well, there's nobody that can escape the pandemic right now. It's touching all of our lives, even if it may not be high numbers in my area. Maybe it's impacted my family in some kind of a loss in another state, in another part of the country. And so with it, it's just really been fascinating for me. Just kind of, again, just going back into I trust myself. I trust, that I can navigate through things and that I'm doing everything I can, again, to make sure that I'm checking in with myself on the many levels. Physically, am I taking care of myself? Mentally, how am I doing? Am I having a high anxiety moment? Okay, great. What are some of the ways that I can listen to what that anxiety is telling me? Emotionally, am I taking care of myself? And then also spiritually. And so that's where when we really all encompass and look at the many facets of our lives, that's the greatest responsibility that we have. And that's also that calm that when we come to being able to find that balance and harmony within ourselves in the best way that we can, we help to bring and radiate that energy out towards the others that we interact with on a regular basis. And that is a huge responsibility. It is not easy in any shape or form. There's times where I have definitely personally just wanted to shut down and just wanted to curl up in a ball or put a movie on and say, I just want to check out for a little bit. And that's okay too. We're going to have those moments of doing that. There's going to be times, again, we're going to have a high anxiety. And that's where it's okay for us to feel that. And it's also okay for all of us to share that with each other, not necessarily looking at somebody else to fix it, but being able to resonate with another individual, whether it be they come to me and say, you know what, I'm really having a difficult time right now. And it's okay for us to say, me too. So that I think is really point with what you had mentioned.
So in the psychic intuitive world, you folks kind of knew that 2020 was going to bring something different, something unique. This wasn't going to be like any other year, but you just didn't know what that was going to be. And boy, you were right.
Right. And it's always interesting as to what that is even like psychically. Excuse me. I think one of the things for myself, it's almost like it feels like a big ball of energy. And when you feel, it's almost like a huge wave of energy where you'll feel this swell. If those of you that have been to the ocean, you kind of feel this water and it's all around you and it's almost tidal. And then you feel this big swell and you feel this build up, and then all of a sudden this wave starts to break. And that's almost like what it tends to feel like. And we don't always know when is that wave going to break or what is it going to look like. Is there anything going to be carried on that wave? And this whole year has had not just one thing, but it's really had a lot of disruption. And I think it really pulls me back to the Tower card. The Tower card in tarot, it's where, your world feels as if it's crumbling, unexpected shifting and changing. And on the card, when you see it traditionally, the lightning strikes a tower and everybody just crumbles and falls from that tower. And, it can be a very ominous looking card. With it, I always take a look at what is the opportunity within those moments. And this is really a great time for all of us to say, and even for myself personally, where I've been, man, there's been all kinds of things outside of a pandemic, outside of a move, that have personally impacted me this year. And with it, there's been times where some of my old traumas have even been triggered and they've floated up to the surface like a bubble coming up from the bottom of a lake. And those can really bowl you over. And with it, it's, in those moments, even for myself, is where I've really had to sit with it and say, okay, what is coming up now that maybe I hadn't healed before? What is the opportunity within this? And what do I have to learn to reconnect with part of my old self that maybe I wasn't able to be there for myself and meet all my needs at the time and in my life when that event happened? What are the things that I can also take and learn from this and be able to share with some of my clients as they navigate through some of their traumas coming to the surface, or whatever it may be. And so, with it, this is a year of a lot of disruption. And most importantly, being able to take a look at what are those opportunities that we have within a lot of that disruption, where we do see the cracks in the foundation. If
Well,
we don't
and
ever see the cracks in the foundation, we can't work to repair them.
that's exactly right. And you mentioned we just haven't had one problem this year. I mean, the pandemic certainly has been, in my opinion, the biggest hurdle we've had to jump over, because it's opened up so many other chasms. You hear people say, "Well, these folks can't make their rent," and some government officials say, "Well, fine, just suspend landlords from collecting rent." Well, that's fine, but I know people in that industry, and most of them don't. They have notes on those properties. So
Right.
the banks aren't going to let them delay their payment, so they can't delay the payment from their renter. Now, if the bank were to go ahead and suspend their note, then they could suspend the payment on the renter. But then the banks don't have an income, and it just goes on and on and on. And we just not with the pandemic. That's okay, because we're having problems. So let's just go ahead and go into a mode where we can do something that we enjoy and relax. Like, you know what? Let's watch our favorite sports team play on television. Oh, well, we can't do that because we've suspended sports.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we have sports again, but instead of playing ball, they want to make statements on social justice, which we need to make statements on social justice. But I didn't tune in to watch you protest about social justice. I want to watch a ball game. So instead of getting relief, you get one more piece of anxiety. People are frustrated because social justice isn't moving forward fast enough, so they burn Portland. That doesn't solve a problem, especially if you're a small business owner in Portland who now doesn't have a business. You barely survived the pandemic, and now disruptors have burned your business. So it's one thing after another. And I've had younger people say, "Look, we've never had anything like this." And I said, "Well, yeah, we had the Hong Kong flu back in the 60s. In fact, we had that was a pandemic, and Woodstock went on during the Hong Kong flu. We've had wars before. We've had social unrest before, but we've never had it all at the same time. And
All at the same time.
we've never had real-time social media putting stuff out there that maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Maybe it's made up, maybe it's 100% true. And the most important thing, I think, the most important thing that I believe in my heart has caused a problem is, if I say this and you say that, we can't have a conversation as to what's closer to the truth, this or that. We call each other's names and we cancel one another. So there's no open dialogue to see how to solve the problem. And the way to solve a problem is to have smart minds, smart people, logical people who think differently discuss that. So maybe you can meet somewhere in the middle and come up with a solution. We don't do that anymore either.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. We've had just, again, so many different areas. Here economically we're being hit, going into a recession, and most likely, greater impacts, because again, it's not as if it's just the car industry or real estate going down. This is all across the board. hitting so many facets of just, the financial world all at one time. And not only just with us, but it's also globally, as to what this impact looks like, the healthcare industry,